What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Respect Her Game. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoy Respect Her Game, be sure to check out Nesson's daily sports podcast. Boston has entered the chat. You can check it out wherever you enjoy your podcast, whether that's Apple, Amazon, or wherever else. Give it a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe. Alrighty, Casey Hudson alongside Natalie Norrie to break down so many things in Respect Her Game. We've got to get some PWHL updates. Natalie and I have been running in 500 directions between baseball, hockey, and all the things. So I'm excited to just talk to you about PWHL, maybe get into some Paige Becker's conversation, Girl on Fire. And then we have an awesome interview with Tracey Sullivan for a Boston Laxachusetts. So many great things. But first and foremost, Natalie, I want to say, how's it going? But you and I, we keep talking about how it's going. We're running, but how are you feeling today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're good. You know what? It's crazy. I'm just going to start with, I'm so glad it's finally sunny out because the past let's say 5.5 days, I've been in Worcester covering baseball where it's been a high of 35. There's been 5 inches of snow on the field. Rain delays. It's been crazy. I can't believe, in my professional opinion, I'm like, the fact that baseball starts outdoors in the northern part of the country in April is still crazy to me because it's insane. I was outside in my parka, my hat, gloves, and they were still doing Gatorade baths, which is the crazy part. So
oh my gosh, no.
They were still dousing the team. I know they must have been freezing, but no, things are good. It's starting to feel more like spring. Yeah, it's been actually a great time of year to watch the Masters. We've got a little bit of, obviously basketball just wrapping up there with the national championship. Frozen Four. It's been a fun time of year to kind of keep tabs on everything. But yes, it's a good day. Finally glad to be here with you, Casey.
Oh my gosh, yes. You put it perfectly. Fun weekend in terms of sports and all the things. And over the past week, so many big championship games and moments. But I never realized how serious a lack of a spring is here in the New England area. So the sun popping out has just been amazing. I thought it was a joke when Nesson posted, meanwhile, and I don't want to say Worcester. I think I say it wrong. Clearly, I'm a Floridian. But when they showed the snow and the little snowman, I was like, this cannot be real. Mm-hmm. And I go outside to walk my dog, and it's like ice and like little layers of snow everywhere. And I was like, I was warned. This is April in New England. So
it's crazy. I mean, like the phrase "April showers bring May flowers." It like couldn't be more accurate here, just because April is a miserable month. But what was kind of cool actually about the snowfall is the snow started falling Friday night. And I don't know about you, but like multiple players in the dugout were just looking up. Like this was the first time they had ever seen snow fall. They'd seen it on the ground. They'd never actually seen it fall. So it was a really cool moment to like experience it through someone else for the first time. And for me, 26 years. So it was kind of like really a really cool moment, at least for the players, but the cold they could do without.
At least it makes it more magical while we're dealing with like still having these cold bouts throughout. So I still find it very pretty. I get shocked when I have to still put on my big coat, but we'll see what other surprises shake out as April. Now that we're already gunning towards the middle of April, it's wild. But speaking about this time of the year, we've got the PWHL on a break. We thought it'd be a moment for you to catch your breath, but you do have the Woo Sox coverage on top of everything else. But heading into the break, you and I got a chance to catch up a number of times, talk about the Boston Fleet, the PWHL as a whole. And with the Fleet, they were starting to gain such really cool momentum. We started to see the identity in the game come together. And then the 3 games heading into this small break were there was a little bit of a drop off, but it happens when you're starting to gun towards the postseason. I think the postseason conversation maybe almost got a little too loud, honestly. So what were you seeing in those last 3 games before the break even took place?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I feel like that was kind of something that we were asking the coaches at the time, was just like, you're thinking about playoffs right now. You're thinking about where you are in the standings. However, you still have about another month to go before you even reach that point. So it was weird. It's like you were trying to like not even rush your brain, but your brain was like thinking ahead a little too far when there were still like a ton of tasks at hand to take care of. So I would say the mental balance of the past few weeks, it was kind of interesting, because it was, okay, we're pushing, every point matters, but wait, we still have to go to Czechia for Women's Worlds, and we still have to do something with Team USA, and we still have to do something with Team Canada. So it was, Yeah, it's like the amount of competition that probably occupied like these girls' brains at the time was maybe a little overwhelming. So in a way, it was probably kind of a nice time to be like, okay, let's take a break from the PWHL. Let's go put on our country's jersey and let's go have some fun. So I think that's kind of where they're at right now. That's where I'm at in particular, because it was just like, whoa, what are we thinking of? But then it's like, pump the brakes. We still got something to do here. But you're right. The 3 games heading into the break here was something that Boston will be definitely trying to address when they come back, because it was kind of tough to see them. They did have such good momentum going, but in the 3 games there, you started to see some players getting, banged up. They actually had a defender playing forward, Daniela Peshova, just because they were short on forwards. Hannah Bilka was still out. They are eyeing a return for her by the end of the season, hopefully. So hopefully she has an impact for playoffs. But yeah, so it was a good time to take a break and just kind of hit the reset button. So I think this is going to be a fun time for them, but also really important to just kind of, get some gas back in the tank.
Oh, 100%. And like when you mention everything that was probably conceptually going through everyone's mind, it's such a divided focus. And considering what this playoff structure is and how close postseason felt, but yet how far away, I think because of the ranking jumps, it's hard not to get ahead of yourself. Because even I was like kind of doing it too much. When I had a chance to catch up with some of the Boston Fleet players as well as the AGM, I was already talking postseason because I was just so excited at the way the team was coming together. But I guess the bigger question is, the break was obviously very needed, but did you see anything alarming in some of the skidding moments for the Boston Fleet's game? Because that jump to number 2 was so exciting. It was so timely. And considering the teams that they're going to have to push past once they come back from break, you obviously as a fan want to make sure that you're not hitting the panic button too quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's even kind of what the team was trying to do as well. It was just like, okay, let's not panic here. Let's just figure out what we need to do. And I think for Boston, it's kind of managing the ebbs and the flows of the game. We always say play a solid 60 minutes. And I think when you hear that statement, that really applies to Boston, especially in those last 3 games, because they wanted to address having a quicker start. They did that, but then they weren't able to finish the game strong, and vice versa. They didn't start quickly, but they finished strong. So I feel like it was kind of trying to figure out how to manage the 60 minutes, not so much like strong start, strong finish. Yes, that's important, but everything in between. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be intense. You're not going to be that competitive for 60 solid minutes, but you have to find a way to pick up where another player puts down and just find a way to kind of complete each other's, motivation throughout the game. So I think that was kind of an issue for Courtney Kessel as well, talking to the team. Like she said, she didn't even go into the locker room after a couple of those games because they knew what they did wrong. Ooh. And she said, you know what? I didn't even need to talk to them, didn't even need to say anything to them because they knew. And I mean, how important that is. If you let a lead go within the last 20 minutes, how devastating that is for a team. So yeah, I think that was kind of a major, I don't know, it was a major point for them to kind of look at and be like, well, how do we stop letting this slip? Or how do we start, playing with this intensity from the first puck drop, the echo of the last whistle? So I think for them, it was a little difficult to put all that together, but, switching up the environment here and instead of doing some Boston Fleet stuff, they're, representing Switzerland and Finland and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a good way to kind of just be like, okay, let's wipe the past few weeks clean and let's just start from here and go from here. So yeah, I think the 60-minute thing was probably pretty prevalent on their minds heading into the break.
Oh, yeah. I think that's such a great way to put it, because sometimes as an athlete, I think they compartmentalize what needs to take place in a game. And when that's always the question coming at you, what's going on in the first? What's going on in the third? It's hard to, you put it so perfectly, pick up where the last player, where they left off and whatnot, so that you can piece together a 60-minute game. So sometimes a new environment, sometimes a different sweater can shake things out differently. Aside from being injury ridden for a number of players when it came to Four Nations, we did see a bit of a jump out of a number of guys' games on the NHL side. And I feel like that translates just as much to the PWHL, because the moments and the opportunities to represent your country seem to come a little bit fewer for when it comes to professional women's hockey. So how do you think that can kind of shift that mentality, or just help bring back a string of passion for the game and just kind of allow that to come back on the other side of the break?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, Casey, because you're right. It's like you take a break from the everyday, I don't know, hustle of the NHL, everyday hustle of the PWHL, and you get to just do one of the biggest honors that you can do as a hockey player, and that is play for your country. And I think what's cool about women's hockey is you always think about, I mean, in hockey in general, it's USA versus Canada, or back in the past, USA versus Russia. But it was always like, these two entities battling it out. But when you look at the women's side of Worlds, I was there last year in Utica. It's been really cool to see, Emma Soderberg with Sweden. It's been really cool to see Susanna Tapani with Finland, and of course Alina Mueller with Switzerland. So it's like you have these major names on teams that their countries don't get as much recognition for hockey. So it's been really cool to see how the professional women's hockey league is really highlighting a lot of these countries through the players that are representing them. And I think it's a sense of pride. And yeah, it kind of fires you up in a different way. You return, you return to the PWHL season kind of looking around and being like, hey, that beef that we had on the international stage no longer applies, but it was fun. I mean, look at what happened with, the Kachuk brothers and everything. It's like, hey, that was fun, but let's get back to work. Right. So I think that's a really good point. I mean, I'd be fired up if I went to play with Team USA and then came home. It's like a whole new world.
It is. And I feel like that little jump, it's a different level of confidence playing for your country. I feel like you have to have a different chip on your shoulder. So you get to kind of have a different perspective when you get back to your game and your club. And just considering the decorated roster that the Boston Fleet have, I mean, I'm always the optimist, but I feel like that's going to pull in some interesting energy, some really confident, some really necessary energy for this second part of the season. Well, it's not really the second part of the season. We're almost in postseason, but for post break, let's say that. And there's a interesting dance taking place with the standings. Like I mentioned beforehand, I mean, we were all going ballistic that they jumped up to that 2 slot. Now they're sitting in the 3 spot, 5 points behind Toronto, only 1 in front of Ottawa. That's the one that's stressing me out. And considering the structure for postseason, where number 1 seed can pick who they want to go against, and that, I think it's 3-4 if I'm not mistaken, that just kind of puts you in a little less of a controlled state. So what do you make of the first game back for the Boston Fleet, how they have to get past Toronto? And I think they face Montreal one more time. If you're enjoying the show, you can catch new episodes of Respect Her Game every Tuesday. You watch the show on YouTube or Twitch and listen on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever else you get and enjoy your podcast.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 more games of the regular season for Boston. So April 26th is their next game back. And I think for them, what's hard is they had so many different breaks throughout the season. They had an international break already earlier this year. They had this break for Women's Worlds. I feel like it was pretty broken up. And I think an emphasis next year is to kind of reformat the scheduling a little bit so that there isn't so much downtime versus travel time. They kind of want it to be a little more evenly, throughout the season. So I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for the league going forward, which can help the players immensely too when it comes to like rest and recovery and just experience in general. So I think that's going to be a really nice step for them going forward as the league continues to grow. But yeah, this whole standings race, it's really been insane because earlier this year, I think, I had my eye on New York, and it was Sarah Fillier and it was Alex Carpenter. And I was like, oh my God, New York is going to be this powerhouse. And, Ottawa was kind of sitting last in the standings. Oh, yeah. And then before you know it, Ottawa really made a push. And it's like, okay, so this is tighter than I was anticipating. And I think what's fun about that is, to me, it kind of begs the question of like, this is a lot of competition for very few teams. Like, I feel like I want to see expansion because I want to see how the playoffs can differ. I want to see how, these games, this travel, how every point accumulation. I just want to see more teams because there is so much competition for 6 teams, which is very encouraging. But I think, like, for me, I'm like, I want to see some more.
100%, because eventually you feel like a team gets a little solvable. I think that's kind of what we started to see before the break came about. I mean, we've seen so many neck and neck matchups with Toronto, with Ottawa. We've seen things get really heated up versus Ottawa. But then when you know what you're going against and you know these little minute details to just like reconfigure going up against a team, it changes. Like, yes, it's very competitive, but it also just kind of almost makes it impossible to get those good clean breakaways and degrees of separation from the teams around you. So yeah, coming back, I know it's going to be an intense matchup. They take on Toronto 2 p.m. on April 26th. What have you kind of seen between this dance between Boston and Toronto all season long?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, to your point, the word solvable, I feel like is really, really accurate, let's say, because I feel like all these coaches, they're talking about, at this point in the season, they're talking about how they match up against one another. Like, oh, we know we match up with them well. We know when it comes to playing Kessel's team, it's XYZ. So I feel like there is kind of a method to the madness when it comes to playing in the PWHL now, because you're right. There is that familiarity. And I think it is like, it would be an additional challenge for these teams and an exciting one if there were more teams in the league. And I'm excited that the conversation is happening. However, Toronto continuing to be a powerhouse. I really enjoy watching when Toronto and Boston plays. I mean, unfortunately for Boston, because I feel like Toronto has kind of had the upper hand. And it's just, Toronto is a very strong team. They just recently, I forget what game it was exactly, but I would say probably within the last month, they finally had a full healthy roster since the first time of the season. So it was kind of like, okay, we've got all of our pieces back. Sarah Nurse returns. What can we do now? So it was almost like, okay, Toronto, all of a sudden they have every piece that they need to be successful. Watch out. That's kind of how it felt with Toronto. So I feel like Boston going up against Toronto is going to be a whole new test, because they do have every piece working for them, and Boston has, a steep challenge ahead of them when it comes to playing the Scepters. But I think, like we mentioned, Hannah Bilka, I think they're trying to eye her coming back towards the end of the year. There's no specific date as to when she'll return, but I think things have been going well for her. So that'll be a huge piece to get back when you think about playing Toronto. But yeah, I think that's been one of the more exciting. I think Toronto and Montreal have been exciting matchups to see with Boston, just because I feel like there is a little bit of that, like, Canadian, American team rivalry going on. But it's been fun. It's a high competition, just high level of skill hockey game. I mean, you watch a game like that and you wouldn't even know that you're watching, let's say, women, because the skill, the level of talent is so impressive. The physicality is so impressive. Yep. You turn the game on and you're just like, sweet, another hockey game, let's go. So I think it's fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like Boston's kind of spearheading that extra layer of physicality to women's hockey. And just kind of speaking of the fact that like things can become solvable, I think that also emphasizes the hockey IQ that these players have to have in order to still have a quality game, a competitive matchup. So that's the other fun part. As much as I do wanted to expand, I'm right there with you. Let's add some more teams into the mix. Let's see what this playoff structure looks like. But it's really cool to see like how the screws really have to continue to sharpen and turn in order to have a quality game ahead. You broke down Toronto beautifully. I didn't even think about the fact of how healthy they got from point A to point B. And that's so crucial because, again, that roster mold out at the right time is going to change everything. 5 points between Toronto and Boston. But then you've got a Boston team that's hoping to get some players back. And then you've got Montreal, as you mentioned. It's always been intense game. I mean, every matchup between these two teams has just been off the Richter scale. And that's another piece that Boston's going to have to get through just to make sure they don't drop too far down in the ranking. They have a few players, they being Montreal, that got healthier in the past week or 2 weeks as well. So what do you think the last dance between Montreal and Boston might be like?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't want to say Montreal will be like checked out by any means, but they have already secured that playoff spot. But so I think for Boston, it's a little more of a challenge. It's a little more of a battle for them because they still have to make sure that they're in playoffs when all of this is said and done. So I think for Montreal, they're like, okay, we've made it to the postseason. Good to go, but we still have one more team to get through, and Boston is a hungry team when it comes to playing Montreal. I just feel like, the last time they played, Dabian was taken off the ice. She was injured. It was actually
Yes.
kind of a funny moment. So I'm glad you brought that up because it's huge that they got her back. I was actually looking at the box score for USA Canada last night, of course, and it was like, oh my gosh, Dabian's back. That's huge for Canada. That's huge for Montreal. So yeah, that's gonna be a challenge for Boston to get past her, especially wanting to rebound after that little setback. But that game in particular, I was really impressed with. I think Elaine Chuli is her name. She's the backup goaltender for Montreal. She was a Yukon Husky, and she was actually sitting next to me on the bench. I was in between the benches with the glass, but I had a monitor in front of me, and she couldn't exactly see either end of the ice. So she was like trying to, poke her head around and look. And so what I ended up doing is I repositioned the monitor so she could watch like the TV broadcast with me. So she was watching the game through the glass with me on the monitor, and she gave me like a thumbs up and like a knuckle bump through the glass. So I was like, okay, we're friends now. But what was what was kind of cool about it is she was dialed in. She was like swerving her head like she was making the saves mentally.
Oh,
She was
wow.
just she was like mentally prepared before even knowing that she had to go in during that game. So not only is that a testament to the way that goalies are still focused, even when they're sitting in their baseball hats or whatever, Julie went in and she was strong. Unfortunately for her, the team did not get the win, but I was kind of pulling for her because I was like, it was really cool to see that moment of just, she was keeping herself in the game. And then when the time went for her to go in, she did a very good job. So it was kind of cool
Yeah.
to see that.
That's a great story. I love that because I don't think people realize that, like, even if they're not on the ice, the learning and the
Mm-hmm.
focus is still very much going. We've had a number of players when I used to cover the Lightning that used to say, I'm learning so much in those times that I'm not dressed out and I'm in the box. And then I
Yeah.
have the ability to kind of translate that to my game. So bird's eye view comes in at certain points of the
Yeah.
season. Very, very key. But as I mentioned here on Respect Her Game, you got Natalie and I who run from
Mm-hmm.
hockey to baseball. You've got Woo Sox. We've got Red Sox, which means stream the entire Red Sox season with NESN 360's annual plan, available at an all-new reduced price of just $20 a month paid annually. And for a limited time, get 4 tickets to Fenway with your purchase. Visit NESN360.com to sign up today. Also, here on Respect Your Game, we had the opportunity and the honor to catch up with Tracey Sullivan of Girls Laxachusetts, talking about growing the game, the tremendous success that they have found, and so much more. Check out the interview right here. Joining me now here on Respect Her Game, founder, director of Boston of Laxachusetts, Tracey Sullivan. Tracey, how are you? I'm so excited to not only chat with you, get to know you further, but break down everything that everyone should know about Laxachusetts.
Awesome. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, yes, I'm very excited. Of course, the first question always has to be, when you're talking about sports, when you're talking about something that has just pulled you all the way in, taken your time, your passion, your skill set, how did you get into lacrosse?
Oh, I was so blessed to have the most amazing high school coach, Linda Haytayan, from Nashua, New Hampshire. And I started lacrosse in 9th grade. So it was not like it is today, for sure. She brought the sport to Nashua. We had an unbelievable athletics program, and she made me fall in love with it. And not only that, she brought me to these crazy events that we never even knew existed. And I was luckily recruited to be able to play in college. And from the minute I picked up the stick, I don't think I've put it down, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would say that's almost obvious because typically to even start lacrosse in 9th grade and then to get an opportunity to play in college, and then of course we're going to go through your career here on Respect Her Game, but it just means that game entirely pulled you in and got you excited and passionate about it. But you mentioned it, you got a chance to play in college. What was it like to go from being a college athlete to, an assistant coaching role, and then we'll move forward from there?
Yeah, so I attended UMass Amherst. I started actually at Towson University, had an unbelievable time in Baltimore, but it was just a little too far from home. I'm a homebody. I'm from New Hampshire. I love the Boston area. So I was drawn to UMass. So blessed, met some of my best friends in the entire world there, had a great experience there for 3 years with Phil Barnes, who coaches at UNC now, and Carrie Boldock. And after, finishing my career, I just knew that I didn't want to get out of the lacrosse world. I unfortunately tore my knee my junior year of college, and I was given the opportunity just to kind of be the eyes and ears of the coaches, on the sidelines, and it's what I fell in love with. So, after graduating in 2004, I was asked to come in and be an assistant coach, which was interesting because jumping into being assistant coach after those girls being your college teammates definitely presented some challenges, but we made it work. And it was an incredible 2 years being able to coach those girls out there at UMass. And I thought leaving UMass Amherst and moving into the city, I was going to be done coaching, and then I got roped in by my old coach from Towson, Liza Shoemaker, who was coaching at BU, and she was leaving. And then I became the assistant coach at BU. So it just, connections in the lacrosse world are very small. And so once you get in, I just don't think you ever get out.
Yeah, I'm sure that they want to keep you as involved as possible. But you mentioned it, what's that dynamic like going from playing alongside of some of these women to now having that angle, that analysis, that coaching perspective? Because we have Gigi Marvin here at Nesson, and she's talked about the transition for her for hockey, and she's I still talk to them they're their nicknames. I still have that fun, camaraderie with them, but then I have to wear a different hat.
Yeah. I mean, I think what was great is, I was sort of the mediator between the head coach and the players. They looked at me, they knew I was their captain for 2 years. So they looked at me in that leadership position anyways. But, of course, it was hard when I had to say, get on the line, or we're doing a run test, or, you're not starting today. But it really taught me how to have those difficult conversations with people that, I have such close friendships with. And I think ultimately, they understood the line that we had to draw between coach and player. But I do think it was able to give us that special relationship, on the field, where I knew what they were thinking and I knew the best way to get to them to pull, their best play out of them.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And especially being able to be in that captain position, you do have to learn how to weather different personalities and kind of how to curtail your delivery and your message. But I mentioned it beforehand, collegiate player, then you end up assistant coaching, then you get into recruiting, and then you're this revolutionary builder and now founder of Laxachusetts. So how did this even come about to start building out this program?
So I started the girls side of Laxachusetts.
Yes.
Sean Morris, Dave Evans, and Dan Chenard are the founders of the boys side of Laxachusetts. And I was lucky enough to go to college with Sean Morris. He also went to UMass Amherst. So Dan Chenard's daughter was coming of age to be picking up a stick and playing the sport, and he wanted to start a girls side. And they reached out to the most amazing Acacia Walker Weinstein at Boston College, who then reached out to me, and we all kind of came full circle, and we said, let's do this. So, we started Laxachusetts, the girls side, around 2011. We started doing clinics, started, all the way in 2012, and we've just never looked back. Acacia was absolutely instrumental in helping us start Laxachusetts, and, she became the end all be all now at BC, one of my most inspirational mentors. But we're so happy for her, but she still comes back. She coaches. Her daughter Wesley plays for us. So, over the past 10 years, it's just been absolutely incredible to see how much this has grown.
Oh my gosh. And that's the next thing. It's one of the most rapid growing sports for girls in this area, which is amazing because it makes it all even more worthwhile. But can you just talk about what's encouraging such interest and such growth for lacrosse and for girls in the Massachusetts area?
Yeah, I mean, I think lacrosse has it all. You're playing with a stick. It's so fast, right? There's lots of different goals that are being scored. And, at the younger levels, it's all about just having fun, but it's making sure that they understand, you have to catch, you have to be able to throw, and you have to be able to scoop a ground ball. And if you get those three fundamentals, it's going to be so much more fun as you get older. So I just think, the pace of the game, it's a little faster than soccer and field hockey because there are more goals that are scored, but such similar aspects to, defense and offense is basketball. So it's really a blend of, the fall and winter sports that all of our girls love. But it's in the spring. So it's great. So we can pick up those multi-sport, soccer and basketball players, hockey players that, understand the physicality that lacrosse takes. And they just step on the field and they usually rock it. Some of my absolute best lacrosse players have been high caliber Division I basketball players. It's crazy. They can just pick up that stick and it transcends so easily onto the lacrosse field.
Yeah, sticking with that for a minute, because I love the versatility that is involved with lacrosse. I grew up with guys that played lacrosse as well as hockey back in Florida. And then Annabelle and I have had such colorful conversations just to the fact that you don't realize the physicality that goes into lacrosse. You kind of almost minimize the amount of contact that goes into that game. So can you just kind of emphasize and highlight what really all entails and goes into lacrosse?
Yeah, so I mean, we have 1,000 rules around the physicality of lacrosse and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I think depending on the official, it's going to be different, which is something that I know the governing body and my old head coach, Liz Robertshaw, from the head of the IWLCA, she's really been working towards is just trying to, make clear what is allowed and what is not allowed in the game of lacrosse. Because at the youth level and the high school level, it's very different than the college level, and the physicality that it allows. But, it's you got to be tough. You got to be able to handle that stick on your body. You got to be able to handle, defense, stepping in front of you, and you got to be able to dodge around them to be able to shoot and score, and then on the flip side, when I get my hockey players, out on the lacrosse field, I'm saying, get in front. It's just as physical as hockey. You can't just step away and let them go, so it's balancing the two and teaching them the appropriate ways to do it so nobody gets hurt and it stays safe.
Absolutely. There's so many skill sets and facets that go into it, but you said it's a notch faster than soccer and all these other sports that you can just roll into one. It's so exciting. And speaking of the growth and basically intention, being intentional, I loved reading up on the fact of how you guys approach showcases. You're not just trying to be a part of every single showcase. You make sure to make it count. What's the approach of finding the correct showcases for your players and for the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important. These kids are spread so thin nowadays. I mean, we have kids that are playing club lacrosse, club soccer, club basketball, or club hockey all at the same time, and we 100% support our multi-sport athletes. It's so incredibly important to us because ultimately it'll make them a better athlete, whether they choose to play at the college level or not. But when we choose to have what they want to do in the summertime, it's so important that it's the right showcase and it's not wasting the parents' time or the parents' money. Because, I'm a mom of 4 kids and my kids are getting to that age where we're going to be going to different tournaments and showcases. And I want to make sure that it's worth our time. So whether it's for the high school age, it's making sure the right colleges are going to be there, that it's filmed, that it's in a location where coaches can get to. And, we're talking to our network to make sure that they're going. Whether it's at the youth and the middle school level, it's making sure it's appropriate competition. So, we're blessed in Massachusetts that, we have awesome club programs that we can compete against. But, our top teams sometimes we'll need a little bit more. So we need to travel to that mid-Atlantic, the Long Island, the upstate New York. We need to get that next level of play. Whereas, for some of our younger teams, they're perfectly fine staying in Massachusetts, competing against all of the other clubs because at that level, they're all the same, right? And we just want them to get good games and we want them to be able to play 3 games and then possibly get to the communion at 4:00, So
Yeah.
It's important that they're able to do it all or else they won't choose to play lacrosse. And that's important to us.
Yeah, it feels like you create such a safe space so that they can develop and decide in their own accord, but also back to the intention. So I've seen the parents have to do the divide and conquer when you have 1, 2, 3, 4 kids getting it down. Something else that I love, though, that completely jumped off the page to me, it's basically stood out as protecting your younger players. Now, you don't have middle schoolers involved, and for 1, coaches aren't looking at them, but for 2, development is still very much at large for them. So where did this concept come in to make sure that you do protect younger players? And I think it's important too because it protects their mental as they find their love, their individual love for a game.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing, right? Is at Laxachusetts, whenever we hire new coaches or we're training our younger coaches, it's like, guys, lacrosse is supposed to be fun. Let's start with that, right? Like we need to teach these kids the fundamentals. So when they do get to high school or when they do go to college, they know those basics because that's our job, right? That's our job is making them love this sport. So at the youth level and at the middle school level, that's what we tell them all the time. Like this game on Saturday at 4 is not the end all be all. We don't even know what the score is, but did we do our settled attack correctly? Are we riding correctly? Are we able to clear the ball? Is my goalie making saves? How is defense playing? Those are the things that we're looking at to get better every single day, and then the summer tournament, sure, we are all in. We want to win. I get that. That's why we're there, but the development is absolutely important, the most important, and our fundamentals are key, and in the wintertime, we offer so many different skill sessions all over Massachusetts, North Shore, South Shore, West Central Mass, just really harping on those fundamentals and saying, hey, we know you're playing hockey Monday, Wednesday, but get to a skill session on Tuesday or Thursday. You got to get at least to once a week, but we give those parents that flexibility so they can do everything and continue to focus on their development.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw also that there's encouragement to, do the club lacrosse, do the summer camps, do the clinics coming up. What's that balanced approach like to encourage to kind of like have your hand in a little bit of everything?
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's good. We're coaching, the futures, the little kids, and then running a little summer camp. And then we're at, the most competitive lacrosse tournament in the country with every single Division I coach on the sideline, so that's what makes it so fun, right? Like we started off coaching those little babies and now those little babies are playing at the college level. You know what I mean? So that's why we do what we do. And, we don't miss a game on Saturday, or I record it, all the BC games to make sure I get to watch how my girls are doing. And I've had them since they were 6. It's amazing. So it's so cool to see them grow.
Yeah, that has to be so encouraging. And plus, it's just, we already see kids growing at such a rapid rate, but to find something that they love and to continue to grow in that's got to be like an extra, I would say, I don't want to say chip on the shoulder, but icing on top of all of it.
No, absolutely. And, some of the girls at BC, Emily English and Brooke McCloy and Elizabeth Kirk, they were with me when I had my first baby, and now they're coming back and coaching like my daughter Taylor. And it's so full circle. It's so gratifying. I'm so blessed, like being able to do something that I love, running Laxachusetts with my best friends, the people that I love to be with anyways. And then my kids being involved in just, spreading the love of this game to, Massachusetts and the girls from New Hampshire that, where I grew up. Like, I'm just so fortunate and so grateful.
Yeah, and you said it, like lacrosse is a little family, but now it is growing and expanding. What's kind of been a surprising moment for you? Because again, just considering the succession rate, considering the love and how you're expanding that love across the New England area, is there any moment through this process that's really just kind of surprised you or kind of been you're like, wow, we're really doing this?
Yeah. I think it was, a couple of years ago, we had one of our tryouts, and it was the largest tryout that we ever had, and when we practiced down at Union Point in Weymouth, Mass, that's kind of our primary location, even though we're everywhere. And I just looked around for a second and I was like, all 4 fields are completely taken, with, probably 50 to 100 girls on every single field. And this is just 2 age groups. Like, this just completely blew me away, and just standing at the tent when the girls are coming in for tryouts and they're nervous. And I'm like, this is what we built. Like, this is unbelievable. And, I am super positive and super upbeat. And, I obviously want to make these kids feel great. And it's just, when they know who I am, they come running up and give me a hug at tryouts. It's just like the best. It's like, we built a family, and it was like jaw dropping to me. I was like, I can't believe we did it,
Yeah, absolutely. And then that just perfectly pivots us over to the fact that, the recruiting aspect and all of this. And I know for me growing up, I was very competitive and I was a military brat. So sports was just kind of like my lifeline. And I couldn't separate the two sometimes with the enjoyment of it and the competitiveness of it. You probably have a lot of girls coming out of this program, eyes on a college opportunity. So what are those discussions like to either start preparing them for the D1, D2, D3 opportunities without minimizing all the effort, blood, sweat, and tears that they've put up through, growing up?
Totally. I think, starting their sophomore, junior year, we sit them down, we have a recruiting meeting with the player and the parents. And, our motto is dream big. We never want to tell someone, no, that's not where you belong, right? Because that's not up to me. That's up to the college coach. And that's most important. But what we try to do is we try to give them realistic expectations of what going through the recruiting process is going to be like, and to really make sure these girls understand what that commitment's going to be like playing at the college level. Because I think that's where the disconnect often happens is, these kids see the bumper stickers and they watch the girls on TV, but they don't know what really goes into it. And it's not easy and it's not fun and it's really hard, so we really kind of prep them for that at the Division I level, because we've had too many kids that are like, wow, I've got there and this is not for me. And we were like, we warned you, you know what I mean? Like, we need these girls to understand. So I think we've really taken that to the next level, is made sure these kids understand what that commitment is going to be like, and to really make sure they know how amazing Division II and Division III is. I mean, the opportunity to play lacrosse at any level, you are so incredibly fortunate. And realistically, you're going to have, the experience of whatever you make of it, right? Like, do you want to go to a Boston college and maybe not play for 4 years? I don't know, but that's a discussion we have to talk about. Or would you want to look at a Division III, similar academics, and maybe you get to play from freshman year? Like those are the constant conversations that I'm having with parents and kids, just to make sure that they really understand what they're signing up for,
Yes.
And after playing, 4 years of high school, these kids do understand what commitment is, because most of them are 2 sport athletes, some are 3 sport athletes, but it's just so important that they understand, that this is business, and the coaches, this is their job and their livelihood. And if you're not good enough, you won't play. And that's it. It's black and white. There's no in between there,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, and I mean, you can call me on this one. Now I feel like kids are trying to juggle more sports, or like the intensity of being all in on sports these days. Are you seeing a difference in terms of like preparation and commitment from when you were a college athlete to now preparing these girls to be college athletes?
Oh, it's night and day. I mean, we got like a packet and they were like, hope you do it.
Good luck.
Nowadays,
Goodbye.
it's like you have a strength and conditioning coach for the entire summer to make sure that you're ready. I mean, they strength train, they speed train all year round.
Oh, yeah.
The commitment level is completely different from when I was there. I mean, I don't even know what it would have been like if I had to go through it all, and I thought my experience was hard. So I tell these girls, I'm like, I did it back then, and this is what my experience was like, and this is what it was like when I coached, and I know firsthand from all my Laxachusetts players that are playing at the Division I level what their commitment is, and their, what they're expected to do all the time. So, we bring those girls in and we tell them, we say, you guys tell them what it's like, because they don't believe us,
Yes.
And we have that network of girls, so if they're saying I'm looking at a Northwestern or Florida, we'll be like, great, here's a girl, here's her phone number, you're going to talk to her and you're going to see what it's like. And is this for you? I don't know, but it's up to you to make this decision,
Mm-hmm.
And we're really just their parent sounding board. I tell the parents, this isn't a fun process. This is a roller coaster. I'm here for you. I will help you. I will listen to you. And the girls too, because it's difficult. It's hard. It's very emotionally challenging for sure.
Oh my gosh. I love that you connect them to at least get that personal perspective of what you're getting into. Cause I mean, we visited a number of colleges for soccer. I let my best friend go to the program first, and then I went to go like fulfill my scholarship after. And even at that point, I was like, these kids work out. Like my workout was just doing my craft, was running for soccer, making sure my lungs didn't give out, and then like ball technique. I was not lifting weights in high school.
Right. That's what I mean. Neither was I. It's crazy.
Yeah,
now
I
these
give them
girls
so many
work out
kudos.
in season, off season. I'm like, I am so impressed. I don't know how they have time for it, honestly, and then come home and do 3 hours of homework because they're an A+ student taking all APs. I'm like, you guys are amazing.
The focus is a whole nother level. I give them so much credit, and there's no off season anymore. That's the biggest thing.
And we do try to give them an off season. August is our shutdown. We say, go to the beach, have some fun with your family, do something,
Yeah.
It's so important that we're able to like step back and put the stick down and do something else, for a few weeks.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to help them avoid the burnout because like I said, mentally the compete just doesn't die down. But between the fact that you guys seem to have such a great recipe of like nurturing and developing and just guiding them to continue to stay passionate, but then also prevail to whatever their goals may be, what's maybe an outlined goal or, any direction successfully that you want this program to continue to go in, because the rapid growth speaks for itself, but maybe what's another goal for Laxachusetts right now?
Yeah, for me, it's just making sure my girls find a home. I mean, I know we're as big as I want to get. We are so blessed that we have the families and the support and the young kids coming in. I just, with everything changing in the NCAA with the NIL and roster caps and all that stuff, our goal is just to make sure if the kids want to play, we're able to find them a home, and we work our hardest to make sure we do that. And it may be not the home that they initially thought when they were coming into high school, but it's a great place that they're going to be successful athletically and academically. And that's just so important to us, because we want them to be happy. And then lacrosse, it's aside, right? We prepared them for being on the field, and off the field being an awesome teammate.
Oh, this is fantastic. Well, Tracey, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Respect Your Game, talking to us about Girls Laxachusetts. And I am so excited to continue to watch you guys' growth. Annabelle's going to be dragging me on the field soon enough to watch more lacrosse as the seasons go about. But thank you so much for taking the time.
Get a stick in your hand. We will absolutely get a stick in your hand.
I will try it. I'm that person who likes to try everything. So I can't wait. Thank you so much. If you're enjoying the show, you can catch new episodes of Respect Her Game every Tuesday. You watch the show on YouTube or Twitch and listen on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever else you get and enjoy your podcast. All right, we pivot from hockey, quick little baseball read because we love the baseball season right now, to some basketball. We mentioned the excitement that was going down, the national championships that wrapped up. And oh, by the way, the Huskies just sitting on top and Paige Bueckers being an absolute queen. Speculation says that she's going to Dallas. What do you make of her starting her WNBA journey and being with a Dallas team that really needs a rejuvenated season? They need hope. They need help. They need Paige Bueckers.
They 100%. And I think that's why, they're not going to pass up the chance to draft her because she brings so much, let's say so many eyes to the game. I mean, whether you're a male or a female, you like basketball or don't, I feel like you've heard the name Paige Bueckers. And it's so exciting. I think she's the 6th UConn player to get drafted number 1 overall in the WNBA. So great for UConn, great for Gino. But no, I'm excited because I feel like it's time. It's time. I've seen her play college. I've heard her play college for so long. Great freshman year, some injuries, great, finale to her career at UConn. But it's time. I'm excited to see her go pro, and I'm excited to see how she can kind of change the game, continue to change the game, kind of like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all the rookies who joined last year.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfectly put because I think her timing couldn't be better. Not that she dictates that, but considering the adversity, considering the conversations that her and Gino were so vulnerable about getting her ready for this time of her career and this point of her life, like coming out of the following up Caitlin Clark and what she did. And like when Caitlin Clark was projected to go top of the draft and make an impact on her team right away, there was question marks on how fast she'd be able to do that. And she was able to do it so successfully and also draw even more attention to the sport. So having Paige Bueckers come out the following year and potentially more than likely end up at the Dallas team, I think that it's just like poetic to see the blueprint that she can pull from to kind of help with branding, help bring more eyes in and make an impact right away. I mean, she's got such a great style to her game. I wasn't giving the Huskies enough credit. I already kind of ate crow about that and apologized here on Respect Her Game. But from what you've seen from her college basketball career, I think it's safe to say and agree that she's going to make an impact off the jump, all health considered, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's a shooter. She can defend and she can set up her teammates. We always hear she makes players around her better. I think what's most exciting about this, as you mentioned, is the fact that she can really enhance the marketing, the branding of Dallas. If Dallas happens to get her, which again, I feel like, why wouldn't you? Right. So it is one of those things where it's like, if Paige Bueckers is coming to your hometown, you're probably going to go want to see her play. And I think that's great, not only for the community, but little girls and people who want to kind of get more involved in the sport. Paige Bueckers is a good person to start with. And go from there. So yeah, she can definitely bring new eyes to the game. She can definitely bring value to Dallas if that's the case. I mean, they were second to last, I think, record wise last year. So they could use a sharpshooter like her and a player with her skill set to come in and help out.
Yep, they could use the jump, and I think that it'll continue to bring eyes and, success to the WNBA, such as Clayton Clark did and Angel Reese. And now let's insert Paige Bueckers coming down here shortly. But she could be our girl on fire. This perfectly puts us to close out with a girl on fire. There's so many women crushing it right now. But do you have one who's you want to celebrate or illuminate their success or them just tearing it up in any capacity of life?
Yeah, I mean, well, this woman has been so successful for so many years, but she was just inducted into the 2025 Woo Sox Hall of Fame class alongside Jaron Duran and JP Ricciardi. It was Janet Marie Smith. Now, she helped create Polar Park with Larry Lucchino. Not only did she do that, but she worked on Camden Yards with the Orioles, and now she's a senior VP of Planning and Development for the LA Dodgers. So she has just created, quite a name for herself throughout just her career, and anybody who wants to get involved in sports in general as a woman or anything ever needs to know who Janet Marie Smith is, just because she's made such an impact. And even locally for me, I get to work at Polar Park every week, let's say. I go there at least once a week in the summer, and I get to enjoy, the fruits of her labor and Larry Lucchino's labor, and just really cool that she's been inducted into the Blue Sox Hall of Fame, and that her name gets to be cemented with, the legacy that she leaves in creating that park. So very excited for her, exciting to see a woman, have a hand in such, wonderful success with that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And especially getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, it just makes it all the more worthwhile and paves the way. I mean, we're just continuing to find such playmakers to pave the way. I had to go back to my nerdy soccer gal roots because the little bit of soccer that I do get a chance to catch up on, and because I worked alongside of the Orlando Pride for a second, Barbara Banda is just crushing it. There was question marks around whether or not she could be more of a supportive role as well as a playmaker, and we saw it in game one, her setting up her teammates for like key scoring opportunities, and if they can't get it done, her ability to find the back of the net herself. 3 goals, 1 assist through 4 matchups so far this season. And I just love the fact that like she wasn't discouraged in the off season with trying to find more of a selfless role and pick and choose her selfless moments from her selfish moments. So Banda, you're crushing it. You're gonna put the Pride in another contending position to go out and compete, hopefully in another championship game, even though there's some amazing young players that I just can't wait to see how they tear it up and change waves. I mean, Washington Spirit, not to be so basic, they probably have 3 of my favorite middle fielders ever. But I know time has to correlate on their side. So right now I got to stick with the home roots and Banda and what she's doing for the Pride. And hopefully she just continues to tear it up. So that's my gal on awesome. Fire. There are so many good ones to choose from, but I, in the midst of all of the games taking place over the past week and weekend, like you and I talked about, I was just like, let me sneak a peek at soccer for a second. Let me ground myself with the bases here. But I know you got a crazy week coming up with more coverage. I can't wait to keep track of everything that you've got going on, and hopefully, Natalie, we can keep the sun a little bit. What do we do to manifest the weather?
Hopefully. I've got my golf clubs right there ready to go if you can't see them, but I'm ready to get out there on the course.
I love it. I know. I just had a friend ask me if I even have my golf clubs out, and I was like, they've been hiding in my coat closet, but hopefully I can pull mine out and it can help. I hope you guys continue to join us here on Nessa Respect Her Game, and until the next episode, we will catch you later.